Ukrainian drone destroys dozens Russian Wagner mercenaries in frontline Bakhmut. Nowadays, drones are single-use assault weapons, and loitering munitions have been deployed to lethal effect by Ukraine. They are cheap and nimble. As well as military-grade models, Ukraine loading commercial racing drones with grenades. Customized drones like these can be produced rapidly by the hundreds. Drone can locate the target location Russian and also dropping grenades from the on with drones. Meanwhile, the war between Russia and Ukraine is making a lot of high-tech military systems look like so many irrelevancies. That's why both sides are relying increasingly on low-tech alternatives, dumb artillery shells instead of pricey missiles, and drones of fighter aircraft. This war is a war of drones. They are the super weapon here, Anton Gerashenko, an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs. In early May, Russia attributed explosions at the Kremlin to drones sent by Ukraine for the purpose of assassinating Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader. Ukraine denied the allegation. True, the mission to Moscow was ineffectual, but it is amazing that it could be managed all. Drones fly slower than an F-35, carry a smaller payload, beckon ground fire, and last mere days before being shot out of the skies. But for the most part, the price is right. China's DJI Mavic 3, used by both Russia and Ukraine for surveillance and for delivering bombs. You can do a lot with 55,000 drones. Shovel them at the foe and 1 in 5 may make it through. Yoke them together and send them flocking like a murmuration of starlings, and they will overwhelm anti-aircraft defenses. Even individually, they can be formidable. One effective tactic is to have a drone loiter near a point where targets are expected to emerge, then dash in and drop a small bomb. Videos posted on social media purport to show Ukrainian remote operators dropping grenades on Russian troops or through the hatches of Russian armored vehicles. A drone gives a lot of bang for the buck, as utterly new weapons often do. Over time, as a weapons system provokes countermeasures, their designers respond with improvements, and the gold plating accumulates. Yevgeny Prigozhin, leader of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, announced that units of the Russian Regular Army's 72nd Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade had fled their positions southwest of Bakhmut, the destroyed city in Donetsk Oblast, that has been for 9 months the site of the bloodiest. A few hours later, Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade confirmed Prigozhin's claims that the 72nd was in flight, reporting their own capture of Russian positions west of a key canal running adjacent to Bakhmut. A video published by the brigade on May showed Ukrainian assault infantry, backed by multiple tanks and armored vehicles, surging forward across pockmarked fields facing little resistance. The next few days showed that this Ukrainian advance was not an isolated occurrence. Since then, Ukrainian forces have reportedly made significant advances not only on the southern, but also the northern flank of Bakhmut near the villages of Kromov and Bodanivka. According to geolocated footage and Russian telegram channels, Russian regular military units abandoned their positions in a similar fashion. According to the latest official information from the Ukrainian military, Ukraine has taken back more than 20 square kilometers around the city, including positions that Russian forces have held since February. On May 18th, the 3rd Assault Brigade once again reported a successful localized breakthrough on the western outskirts of Bakhmut. Meanwhile, however, the battle inside the city continues to move in favor of Russian forces led by Wagner and Russian paratrooper units. The never-ending battle for Bakhmut can now be understood almost as 2 separate battles, those on the flanks and that inside the city. Ukraine's counterattacks have pushed Russian forces back from the 2 main roads of life into Bakhmut, which in theory makes Ukraine's famed fortress city easier and safer to reinforce and resupply. Over 5 months since Wagner fighters first entered Bakhmut's urban area, there is barely anything left of the fortress. But from with the latest open-source maps showing Ukrainian forces holding on to a handful of streets and apartment buildings on the western outskirts of the city. In almost daily updates, Prigozhin has begun to measure Wagner's daily advances in streets and square meters, testifying to the slow progress made by the much-depleted mercenary force. On May 17th, Russian sources claimed that Wagner had taken the entirety of a neighborhood dubbed the Nest, where Ukraine had allegedly concentrated a large number of defending units. The Battle of Bakhmut, by now likely the bloodiest single military engagement of the 21st century, looks to have finally entered its twilight. As costly as the defense has been, with Ukraine reportedly suffering high casualties, the initially controversial choice of the Ukrainian command to hold the city for as long as possible seems to have paid off. According to U.S. estimates as of early May, Russia is believed to have suffered at least 100,000 casualties over 5 months since its assault on Bakhmut gained intensity in late autumn. This rough figure amounts to half of Ukraine's own estimates of Russia's total personnel losses since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Though the roads into the city were for months under constant fire from Russian forces less than a kilometer away in some areas, Ukraine did manage to keep its defense of the city stable. Intense urban fighting where almost every street and building was contested, Ukraine successfully carried out a holding operation that will likely be remembered as one of the most decisive engagements of the war. Although Wagner seems to finally be on the cusp of victory in Bakhmut, it now seems likely that it could be the end for the group as a force to be reckoned with in Russia's war against Ukraine.